Well, let's continue our conversation with Jeff Hull. He's Senior Financial Advisor at Manulife Wealth. U.S. President Donald Trump is now in Alberta for the G7 gathering of leaders. But where are Trump's signature policies of tariffs headed over the next year or so? Let's talk about it with our featured guest, Jeff Hull. Those U.S. midterms is what you're getting at are not that far away.
Right.
They will take place in November of 2026.
Yeah, so you have something just over a year away. So Trump's doing all this flexing now. He's trying to push all these tariffs that in some cases are really embargoes. When you get to 100 or 145% tariff, nobody's going to pay 145% more for a car. So a lot of this chaos and a lot of the rhetoric really has to cool down. He's got to get the economy humming along because as we enter 2026, we're back into the election for the House. And if they lose that, there are only a few seats. If they lose that to the Democrats, the last 2 years of President Trump's term will be rife with more impeachments and chaos. And then that's really the purse strings of how the government pays for things. So if he doesn't control that anymore, he's only got a 2-year presidency. The last 2 years will be just a gong show. So he knows he's got to cause calm. He's got to get us pro-business going, pro-economy going, have a calm and make sure inflation is down, hence why he's not happy about the oil prices right now. It's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. But you're right, he's on the shot clock. He's got to get things cleaned up pretty fast.
When are we going to see significant deregulation? That was a big theme, a big reason that markets moved higher on the day after the U.S. election.
Yeah, I think he's really hoping for that big, beautiful bill first, and then the next gear he's going to kick into is deregulation, right? Because that's one of the things he wanted to do is make his tax cuts permanent. That was his priority number one. Priority number two is mass deregulation to try to, have that fuel and rocket fuel for the economy to be able to move things forward, whether it's building permits for buildings to be less arduous to get through or other things. He wants to streamline that part of the economy. We'll see if he's able to do it, but that's definitely his goal. Because again, one thing we can bet on for sure is his ego, and he wants to go down as one of the best presidents ever. So like I said, he's on the shot clock. He's got to get things cleaned up fast and moving forward.
So what do you see coming in, on tariffs in the next 6, 8, 12 months?
You'll see more and more deals done. The one with Britain was kind of an easy one as an example because they already have certain relationships. The tariffs were already very low on both countries, so that was an easy goal for him to score. But you'll probably see India and Japan coming up soon. Those are really important. Will they get some of the China stuff sorted out? They seem to have some things on the plate, but some of these 6-month things with critical minerals are more just kind of window dressing right now. A quick example is one of the things China provides that people don't think is important is magnets. We're talking right now on our microphones are magnets. Our earpieces are magnets. My iPhone is magnets. MRI machine. We can't start a car without it. You can't. So if China withholds critical minerals to the world, it really stops a lot of industry that way. So how he's trying to use tariffs like a flex, or what I call Trump jujitsu. He's trying to choke economies to have them tap out so they'll kind of bend to his will. But he's got to be careful because if he chokes out his competition, and right now we might see that at the G7, where a lot of them might start getting together and say, you know what, instead of buying defense companies from the U.S., maybe Germany will buy it from France and Canada might buy it from Sweden or other countries. Because Trump, if he over-bullies his position, he's going to offend a lot of his allies.
Do you think he misread China and China's huge role in critical minerals and magnets?
I wouldn't say he overplayed his hand that way, or was more actually, I think it was off his radar, to be honest. I don't think he realized how important China really is. To not just that, but even the F-35 fighter jet program and a lot of defense contractors in the U.S., they need those critical minerals. And that's where something like Ontario may be able to step into some of the fold. But with magnets, over 99% of all the magnets in the world come out of China and are refined in China. Right. That's a dominant position China has.
Did he understand that when he dialed tariffs on Chinese products up to 150%?
I think he decided he was going to flex and everyone would just bow and kiss the ring. I think he was surprised at the pushback. But one thing I've learned about China over the years is they think beyond this generation. They think decades ahead, where Trump's just thinking to the midterm election. So one person's in a sprint and the other person's running a marathon. So you got these dual personalities to see what's going to happen. But overall, I think it's going to be interesting to watch as it unfolds. And the G7 will be an interesting one as well.
What will you be watching in the G7 briefly?
Mainly to see how much flexing Trump attempts to do and how much other countries start to collaborate a little bit more. Obviously, with the war in Ukraine, Russia dragging on, the new conflict with Israel and Iran, there's a lot of reordering that has to be done, especially among the NATO nations, those 32 countries that also have to step up. They've all agreed to pay their 2% for self-readiness. It's not a membership dues, but a lot of those, a few of the countries that are coming to the G7 aren't up to snuff, and sadly, Canada is one of them. We haven't paid our 2% for our own self-readiness either.